So I saw a comment that somebody left here, and they said the developers for the Division want to be Diablo. I thought it was an interesting comment, by the way. That's why I'm talking about it in regard to this seasonal content, because from what we heard back in the Division 1 days, I don't know if many of you were here around that time, there was actually, or there were, in a sense, I would say allusions to the Division being inspired by Diablo. In fact, if you guys go look back at some of the people who worked on the Division, you'll notice that some of them actually did work on Diablo. Now, in what capacity they worked on Diablo, I'm not aware. However, I think maybe somewhere around the pitching of this game, the Division as a whole, Diablo was more than likely an inspiration for it. Because, yes, Destiny came out before the Division. However, the whole premise of the RPG shooter and such and the looting and all that stuff was something that was already in existence from Diablo being one of the bigger games that brought it to the mainstream. The really cool part though was that the Division was in a sense unapologetic in adapting the RPG looter genre into the shooter genre. It was done using the Tom Clancy name, possibly to be able to bring a lot of people in, which was, in my opinion, a double-edged sword. Because some people were coming into Tom Clancy thinking, "Oh yeah, we're playing a Tom Clancy game along the likes of Rainbow Six and Splinter Cell or Ghost Recon or whatever," not knowing that they were playing a Tom Clancy game, along the lines of freaking Diablo, where you could be shooting an enemy with 5,000 bullets, and the enemy is just not going to follow suit or listen to the damage that you're actually dealing with them. So I can see that where people may think about the sentiment now making the comparison of the seasonal characters, when in reality, for the most part, it seems like the Division was a wannabe, in a sense. I'll call it that, a wannabe Diablo game at the time, because simply, if you kind of think about it, that seems to have a lot of its it has a lot of its imprint on the game overall. So it's very interesting that this genre has largely gone on tap because, yes, Diablo does have history. Diablo has code base. It's established itself. The Division, on the other hand, has just kind of struggled because, in my opinion, it's a more expensive game from an aesthetics perspective. I'm not saying that it takes you longer to develop one or the other because Diablo is a top-down game and it looks a certain kind of way. It may have mechanics and systems that are more complex. However, a game like The Division just takes a lot more a lot more of a technical aspect to be able to deliver it. I mean, look at this scene from Russian Consulate. It is a harder and much more challenging scene to put together than many of the scenes you're going to see in different genres, simply because this is a kind of a realistic scene that requires more detail, more more of a pitch for your audience and your gamer to to believe that this is truly where you say it is in terms of their visuals and all that. I guess you guys can understand what I mean by that. I'm not trying to pit one against the other. I'm just saying that from a development perspective, you'll find it more challenging to execute a game like this compared to Diablo from, a visual perspective overall. And so this is probably why I think the Division is a lot less, I would say doesn't move as fast in terms of being able to iterate stuff like the other games have, because the other games, they were made and they were brought out during the time when technology was also still somewhat limited. The Division was during the cross section of when computer graphics generation was really taking a huge improvement. Yes, things were more expensive, so the average consumer could not have access to those kinds of PCs, but the game development studios and the publishers, they could. But aesthetics aside, oh my gosh, how did we get on that tangent? The Division's core mechanics, nonetheless, is still somewhat attractive to people who like RPGs, and it does intersect very well with people who do like shooters. But with the seasonal content coming into perspective, I don't necessarily think that the shooter part of the community who like the shooting and the way the game is set up have as much of what I think is the patience of the Diablo community in the way that they engage with their game. I've even seen some people who play Diablo who've actually mentioned in the comment section that they're not fans of the seasonal character models themselves, just simply because there's the grind involved. So both games, you can say they share, this, I would say they share these strands of having the player grind for long hours to be able to achieve or attain specific gear and weapons and achieve different level caps and so on and so forth, which Diablo 4 suffered from before they actually did a whole rework of the game. So it's very interesting to see the contrast. I hope the developers, as they're actually taking care of releasing this seasonal content, that they look very carefully to engage their community in a way that the community feels like their progress is meaningful and not them just having to do a grind for the sake of we want to do a grind. But I'm going to go ahead and stop this video because I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. How do you think the devs over at Diablo have been handling their game that have basically similar gripes with The Division, and compared to how Massive is actually handling the game right now? Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out.